If they were actually giving tours of the Capitol the day before, that means it's contemplated that the insurrectionists were going to violate the Capitol space, do everything they did with the possible exception of the violence. This is like, it's akin to giving a map of the cockpit to Muhammad Atta on September 9th.
Yet another Georgia congressperson finds themselves in the hot seat. This week, the January 6th Select Committee asked Congressman Barry Loudermilk to answer some questions about the so-called tours he led through the Capitol the day before the insurrection. Representative Loudermilk has repeatedly denied giving any such tours, but the committee's latest letter says they have evidence that, quote, directly contradicts those denials. Joining me now is former acting Solicitor General of the United States and current MSNBC legal analyst Neil Katyal. Neil, thank you so much for being with us. So, Representative Loudermilk hasn't been subpoenaed like the other 5 Republicans, sitting members of Congress, were last week by the Select Committee. But so far, none have said they cooperate at all. So what's the best way to get them to do that at this point?
It is to subpoena this guy and to force him to cooperate. But look, I don't know that we will hear from him in the congressional investigation, because it looks like he's facing, Michael, possible criminal exposure. I mean, Michael, this guy's pants are totally on fire. He's looking at the Fifth Amendment. And as a lawyer, you'd never want a client to take the stand if you can't trust them. And this guy has zero credibility. I mean, lying about the election was bad enough, but to lie about whether you give tours or not, and this is the same guy who a year ago filed an ethics complaint against Democrats for saying that he was giving a tour. He said, that was false. Now it turns out that wasn't false. And, this whole strategy might have been a smart deflection strategy if you were like, I don't know, trying to, deflect attention from who took the last cookie in the jar at your house, Michael, or something like that. But This is on tape. It's on video.
Well, and that's an interesting point, because the Select Committee also revealed it's in possession of White House official photos, right, chronicling what President Trump did on January 6th. So how significant could those photos be in terms of evidence?
Well, we don't know what the photos are, but they will be obviously helpful in filling in missing gaps. So we know there's a 181-minute gap while the Congress was under attack, in which we have no idea whatsoever what Donald Trump was doing, even though he was president at the time, even though these are some of the most 181 most important minutes the government has ever faced in our lifetimes. And we also know that there's like a 7-hour gap in the phone records. Because Trump's evidently suggesting he didn't make any phone calls during that time on January 6th. I mean, give me a break. I mean, Trump is more addicted to his phone than a teenager. So they're obviously using burners or borrowed phones or something like that. And Michael, you asked about these photos, and, it's characteristic Trump. He's trying to cover it up, but he blows it because, he also wants his photo op and so on. So the Congressional Committee now has access to those photos, and that can help fill in some of the gap. Probably some of them are him talking on the phone.
So it was fascinating this week as we watched the walls around President Trump get a little bit closer to him, as his personal attorney, Rudy Giuliani, reportedly testified virtually for 9 hours to the Select Committee on Friday. So what does that signal to you in terms of the status of the investigation, that they're now talking to someone like Rudy Giuliani?
Well, it's hard to know what 9 hours means here because, Michael, we are talking about Rudy after all.
Yeah, that's true. Good point.
It might be like dog years. I don't know. Rudy's not exactly linear. 9 hours of Rudy time might be 9 minutes of you and me time. I don't know. But he's so evasive that when he finally gets around to answering a question, 45 minutes might have elapsed. So I don't know. I mean, it's obviously a long amount of time. Rudy has been trying to stonewall cooperation. I mean, he was subpoenaed back in January to come and testify. He was supposed to then come in 2 weeks ago, and he canceled at the last minute. But now he's finally come in. My hope is we've got the old Rudy Giuliani, the kind of law enforcement, law and order Rudy Giuliani, who will go and tell the truth, as opposed to what we've seen over the last years.
So we got a little bit of time left. I want to jump real quick because it sort of dovetails on Giuliani. You've got Axios, who's reported this week that former Attorney General Bill Barr is in discussions to cooperate with the January 6th committee. No firm decision has been made at this point whether or not to invite him to appear in public. But what do you make of that? Where do you see that potential opportunity heading?
Well, again, it's good that he, like Giuliani, might be coming in to testify. Most of the Trump administration people like scurry when they hear that they have to testify under oath. But remember, Barr is incredibly cagey, Michael. I mean, his characterization of the Mueller report was so, so wrong that if a law student of mine did that, I would fail them. Judge Reggie Walton, a very respected federal judge in D.C., said that Bill Barr, quote, lacks candor. And, his powers of recall when he wants them to be mushy look like Marjorie Taylor Greene's. So I'm not, optimistic that we'll get a lot out of it, but I'm glad to see that he is cooperating, and hopefully he'll come and tell the truth, because, what happened on January 6th was a travesty to all Americans, and we need to find out what all the facts were on that day.
Neil Katyal, thank you so much, my friend. It's always good to have you on. Coming up, it's up, it's down, it's a bear market, or is it? What this week's markets chaos is telling us about the health of our economy. So stay right with us.